afternoon internet, and welcome back to the workshop. It's good to see you all. Hope you all had a good Christmas and New Year. Back again doing a bit. Right, ZZR cylinder head. We need to sort this head out now. I've been waiting for a few parts coming, but they've arrived. So the next job is to clean the valves up with some scrubby pads as such. Make sure they're all nice and clean. There's no detritus carbon or anything on there, all nice and shiny when they go back. Then we need to grind the valves in using some fine grinding paste. Then we can give it a thorough clean and assemble it. So without further ado, I've got my pot of coffee. Let's get cracking. Okay, so here we go. We have an exhaust valve. You can see from that we've got quite a rough finish. All the carbon's gone after the blasting, but as you can see, it's still quite rough. So what we're going to do is we're just going to remove those last deposits. I suppose I could have done it with some harder media in the blaster, but the problem with doing it with a harder media is it may damage the surface of the valve, which is not what we want. So we're going to put this in a battery drill, spin it up and put a nylon pad on it just to remove all that detritus. Right, here we go then. Okay, so as you can see, just the use of a nylon pad gets everything nice and clean. As you can see, there's no carbon on there. That's the first valve done. So we've only got another 15 to do, and we've got it cracked. Okay, so without further ado, let's get cracking. Two down, 14 to go. There we go. That's all 16 cleaned up. You can see that, all nice and shiny, all carbon removed. So our next task is to grind them in. Right now then, we've got this head, we've got it fixed down. Just move my cup of coffee. We've got it fixed down on this bench. So basically what I've done, I have bolted it to a piece of wood through the exhaust ports. I've put 2 bolts in through this wood and countersunk them so that it holds the head nice and solid to the piece of wood, then clamp the wood to the bench. So when I'm doing these valves, as you can see, I can get to both sides without any hassle at all. No grief. I can get to the tops of the valves, the bottoms of the valves. That's great. So there's nothing worse than trying to grind valves in and having the head moving around on the bench. Quite often you can't get to both sides of the valves when you're doing a cylinder head, but this is the easiest way for me to do this head. Like I say, it's not always the way, it's just my way. Okay, grinding valves into a cylinder head. There are many ways to do it. The preferred way in the manual is to get a grinding stick. I don't have one, so I'm sure if you go on the internet you can see them valve grinding tools. They're like a piece of wood with a rubber sucker on. What we've got here is my way of doing things. We've got a battery drill set on minimum speed, so it doesn't do any damage to either the head or the valve. We've got a piece of flexible plastic pipe, and basically what we do is we pop the valve into its situation, we put some valve grinding paste on the head of the valve, we push that onto it and then rotate it using the tube, so that spins the valve against the seat to grind it in. Can't do any damage because you're not putting any load on the shaft. You're keeping the speed down, so you're not going to damage the valve or the guide, and it makes it nice and quick and easy. Okay, moving on. Rightio then, so we've got our cylinder head. I'm going to do number 16 first, which is the right hand side inlet valve. There's my inlet valve all nicely cleaned up, taking all the muck and dirt and crap and detritus off it. Right, so that goes in hole number 16, like so. Now what we need to do is we need to apply paste to that seat where the valve touches the cylinder head. So when it sits in its seat, it seals. And what we need to do is apply paste and then rotate that so that the seat matches the valve, so there's no leaks. That's the idea of grinding valves in. So what I'm going to do is take that out like that. I'm going to get some valve grinding paste, which is this stuff here. That's upside down, you can't read it. Open this end, fine grinding paste. Well, I've opened that end, there it is. Okay, so what we need to do, we just need to put a tiny little bit on the valve seat. So using your finger, you just need a small smearing on the valve seat. You don't need much. Don't want to be putting half a ton on. Don't need half a ton. Need a tiny little bit. There. Okay. Now, as you can see, put a tiny little bit. Let me focus that for you. There you go. Put a tiny little bit on the seat of the valve. There's none on the stem. Alright, there's nothing on the stem. The stem's clean. So we'll just put it on the seat of the valve. So as that rubs against the guide, its abrasive action will cause it to form a seat. Right. I'll just wipe my fingers because I've got it all over my fingers. Right. Make sure the shaft of the valve's clean. Right. So this goes in number 16. Like that. Okay. Focus that a bit better. There we go. So now what we're going to do is we're going to push that plastic rubber tube onto the end of the valve. Okay. Now let's remove the valve. Take it out. Give it a wipe. And you can see we have a ground seat all the way around where the grinding paste has formed a seal, grinding the valve to the same shape as the seat. So now when those two surfaces meet when the engine's running, it should form a gas tight seal. So without further ado, I'm going to crack on and do the other 15. See you in a bit.